Hey everyone, welcome back to IT Horror Stories with Jack Smith. I'm Jack Smith, and at the other side of the table we have...
Bob Johnson.
Hey Bob, good to have you back, sir.
Glad to be back. Always nice to be here.
Good to hear. Well, we've done some time traveling in our episodes for the youngsters that they can go through what we went through.
Do we really want them to suffer that much?
Well, maybe we don't want to, but if it's a side effect.
Okay.
And this is one that, well, we've been through it, but they might go through it again in about 13 years. I'm going to ask you a simple question, and you're going to know exactly what we're going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you December 31st, 1999?
Oh, that's a nice one. Honestly, I was young enough not to have suffered as much as you did during that particular time, but I'm all too aware of it. And yes, indeed, in 13 years, it's 13 or
38 is the next one.
Yeah, indeed. So, yes, there will be a next one coming up relatively soon.
Indeed. So, to answer my own question, I was in a bar in a city, not caring, for reasons that I will explain. So, of course, we're talking about Y2K, or the year 2000 bug that was supposedly gonna halt the world December 31st, 1999, because, oh no, all computers would fail to do the century. Developers back then, of course, smaller computers, lower memory, they said, oh, the year is just 2 digits, and then 99 would roll over back to 0 or to 100, and that would cause all kinds of problems. At least that was what you heard in the news and of some people.
Well, and honestly, I think without the tremendous and gigantic efforts of a lot of people during that time, it would have been as bad as they said.
Oh, no, absolutely. And talking to some old-timers back then, people that have now left the workforce and are retired, already back in the day, indeed, a lot of problems was prevented. However, if you look at what the fear-mongering was from, like, say, mid-98 to Christmas Day 99, it was a bit beyond proportions, if I can say so.
Yeah, indeed. Planes would have not fallen out of the sky. However, I think that if they didn't do such a thorough job, most of the financial institutions would have had a major issue.
Indeed.
I worked in financial institutions around 10 years after that, and they gave me a bit of the background, and
Yep.
I can honestly say that everything digital, which during that time there was very little actual paper left, would have crashed.
Yes, tremendously so. However, all the financial institutions found that out not in 98, but in 78.
Yes.
Because all your 25, 30-year house loans that they were calculating in the late 70s and the early 80s, that's when the Y2K bug popped up for the first time on the mainframes. That's when they caught it.
Actually, earlier than that even.
Yeah, I'm trying to... House loans is something that people can imagine. I'm trying to be accessible here, okay?
Fair enough. No, I have another one that's actually also very accessible.
Yeah.
And those are insurance policies.
Yeah, life insurance, yes.
Because most of those have a runtime of 99 years. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they were very early one of the issues, but yeah, as business will do as business does, it costs money to fix, and it's not an immediate issue, so that's a problem for future me.
Yeah, I can imagine that the CIO in 1982 said, let this be the next guy's problem.
Yes, absolutely.
I do recall that some issues were, I think, on desktop PCs, because that's where the big fear was, that your desktop PC would not be able to calculate the date anymore. And actually, on my very first job, I was responsible for creating and testing a Y2K test disk that they would send out to all their contacts and customers as a business gift. Like August, September of 99. I joined there somewhere in 98. And it was a floppy disk that I made with some test programs that they could send out, and then people could boot it up. Of course, all MS-DOS, because that was all the rage back then. Yes, there was Windows 95, but if you want to go backwards compatibility, then you would stick to MS-DOS stuff. Little bootable disk, and it would just say, okay, yes, your computer is Y2K compatible, and it is perfectly fine. You don't need to worry. And then, of course, people loaded up their Excel spreadsheets. And then that was where the issue was. But their desktop PC and the hardware and the BIOS, that was all fine.
Yeah.
I believe the worst thing that happened was some cash registers that would suddenly say, oh, it is now January 1st, 19, and then 100. That was
1900 or 1970 or something like that, because that was the start date that a lot of things used.
Well, 1970 is the 2038 problem. That's Unix.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. This was the biggest problem that was found. And as I said, I was out partying because things would be okay, because our part of our globe is not the center of it. And my thing was, okay, Australia is 12 hours ahead of us. So by noon, December 31st, we will know if Australia crashed or not. And Australia didn't crash. Everything kept working. It's like, yeah, Gup, we might actually be okay in this. And it turns out that we kind of were.
Mm-hmm. I'm expecting a big but here.
No, sadly, there is no but. It was the reality, and this is more about all the fear created into the folks back then, like, oh, as you said, the banks are gonna fall down, your car is gonna stop driving, airplanes will fall out of the sky. Speaking of airplanes, of course, there's already very few air traffic on New Year's Day, New Year's Eve. Close to all airlines grounded their airplanes at that moment, just to be sure that when you had the year turnover in the internal clock for the airplanes, the radars, the radios,
all the onboard computers.
Indeed, yeah.
Especially the navigational units. If I remember, those were the ones that they feared the most. Everything that kept the plane in the air, but everything that told it where it should be going.
Yeah, indeed. And airplanes do run on, you keep the old systems going. You're not going to upgrade your flight computer or your navigation computer thing. That reminds me of the internet meme that they're still loading Boeing 747 weather maps with floppy disks. Of course you do.
Yeah, it works.
It's literally as air-gapped as you can have it.
But not only that, you've been using it for so long, you know exactly what can go wrong and how to react to it. Every time you upgrade hardware, you introduce the unknown of a specific scenario that you haven't encountered it yet. If you're using something for over 40 or 50 years, the chance of encountering something new become very slim. If you do that with 20-year-old technology, it's significantly higher. If you do that with modern technology, it's a certainty.
Yeah, no, absolutely correct.
We choose not to have any subscription model nor sponsoring in order to keep our stories accessible for each and everyone. To support us, please check our merchandise at shop.ithorrorstories.eu or buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/ithorrorstories.
And jumping back to the entire Y2K thing, it was a bit overhyped. Like, I guess some people made a lot of money selling into the fear.
Hey, we still have the prepper movement.
Yeah, true.
I wouldn't say it started back then, but it got a very big popularity boost during that time.
That boost was only surpassed by the preppers that believe they have to protect their house from a zombie attack today, thanks to TV shows like Walking Dead.
Yeah, fair enough, indeed. Yeah, but during the time, I don't think most people who didn't live through it actually realized how scared a lot of people were.
Oh yeah, there were things on the news of cities buying a water distribution machine because the tap water was gonna fail.
Yeah.
And then some salesman sold them that machine. Like, I'm surprised we don't have more monorails. We all know which Simpsons episode we are talking about.
Absolutely.
It was amazing. And then literally, except for a cash register, nothing happened. because all the work was done decades before.
Yeah. Well, decades before, yeah, it highly depends.
They found it out decades
Yes,
before.
they found it out decades before, but I personally know that a lot of the custom development that was only fixed in the few years leading up to it.
Yeah, true.
And there were a lot of people who made tremendous amounts of money, really heaps of money during that specific time, just because they wrote a program 20 years ago and they now charged 20,000 euros a day to fix it in a few places.
That's a tremendously great business model if I ever hear one.
Yeah, indeed. That's one of the big advantages of working on technology that will be obsolete in a few years, but will keep on running for 40 or 50 years.
Such as your Boeing 747.
Exactly, or your average banking mainframe.
Yes, well, at least the software stack, because where was that one place where they had like 4 or 5 emulations layer deep, where they moved from mainframe to a RANG to a BS2000 to Java containers, or I could be switching the BS2000 and the RANG system, could flip them, but you might change the hardware and you might change to the cloud, but you're never going to rewrite your entire software stack.
But I know of financial institutions that were still running on their mainframe in 2020.
Oh, of course, because it
was cheaper.
True, you basically get them for free, and you get the maintenance contract from IBM.
Yeah, indeed, and they were really expensive. But honestly, for them, even switching to a one-on-one emulator, it was still way more expensive, and the investment in manpower just to verify if everything still worked wasn't worth the risk. And back then they were planning on making the switch maybe by 2030, most likely by 2040 or 2050. And honestly, as long as IBM supports the actual hardware, I don't think they're going to go away from it completely.
IBM can keep on supporting it because it all runs in the virtual partition anyway.
Yeah.
So as long as your API in the partition stays the same, who cares what actual hardware IBM puts underneath it? And that's the great model that they have. Like I remember that early 2000s. Yeah, virtualization is a new thing. It's great. You can now virtualize things. That's what mainframes have been doing since day one.
Yeah, it was...
It's nothing new. You're reinventing the mainframe partition.
Honestly, I always have the feeling that that it's very rare that there's actually something new. It's just a new flavor of a very old principle that has been proven, and it becomes fancier and with a bit more bells and whistles, but the underlying principles usually remain the same.
Yeah.
There hasn't been really any really big groundbreaking stuff done.
Well, everything is a remix.
Yeah, exactly. But everything is a best of. But we've gone off topic. Let us get back to the topic of Y2K and...
Yeah, so I wanted to just then jump because we had Y2K, which was, let's just say it's mostly a desktop PC problem. I'm generalizing and I'm taking lots of shortcuts here.
Yeah, mostly a desktop PC, a Pro, and mostly the software that you bought and hadn't updated, or programs that were 10, 15 years old. And honestly, I think the biggest class of programs that I saw that had issues were just older games.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Then you just push the turbo button.
Yeah, exactly. Or yes, you jumped back in time, but it didn't really matter. Yeah, your high scores were suddenly set in 1900. Oh, boo-hoo. Yeah. But it was mainly those type of things. Very, very minor, very cosmetic.
Mm-hmm. No. And then, as you already touched it, the next one is the year 2038 problem, which don't know if it still is a problem, but it's comparable. So, and this is mainly in the UNIX world, as UNIX, this is not with years and stuff and centuries, but Unix counts your actual time from in the number of seconds since a specific date, which is January 1st, 1970.
Yeah.
So January 1st, 1970 plus yay amount of seconds is today's time. And they said, oh, we'll think ahead. The basis for Unix was made in the 70s and 80s. So, okay, fine. And they took a, what's it called? Signed 32-bit integer, which means that you can more or less store about 2 billions, American billion with a B. So a 1 and 9 zeros is 1 billion in this mathematical equation. So it's about 2,100,000,000 seconds and then change. Internet is your friend to look it up. However, those seconds run out somewhere in 2038. The exact date, I think it's like also January something. Mid-January. We still have 13 years to find it out exactly. And there, the fun thing is that it doesn't loop around, it becomes a negative. Because it's assigned integers. When the loops around, it the way computers work internally, it becomes a negative, and then your 2038 will become 1901 because this is how it works. And for this, if you look at, I can compare to the open source world, say like, oh yeah, no, it's been fixed if you use this and this and this library to do your time management.
If you use, that's the big thing.
Exactly. And there's your big but from earlier on. Because you have to use it. Because for backwards compatibility, the old broken one is of course still in there. The little meme where you have a gazillion building blocks and then in the lower right corner is Steve's open source project. Yeah. And if Steve walked away and did something else or retired, then that's gonna collapse.
Yes.
And all the home loans are now discovering this. Your insurances, which were 99 years, your life insurance policies, these are all picking that up. And it's been still a bit quiet on that front in the media, which of course is still 13 years. But somehow, somewhere in the IT field, you do notice that people that are starting their career now, they will go through it.
Yes, that's true.
This podcast features Jack Smith and guests. We say thank you to our demo scene friends who helped making this podcast possible. Commander Homer for editing, Danko for music and audio advice, NetPoet for additional voiceovers.
I think for our generation, I think we're lucky because we'll have both. We've done Y2K at the start and 2038 at the end. So I see lots of consultancy coming up for us in like 2035, 36, 37. Like, no, we are the old guys. We have done this before 35 years ago.
No worries. Just pay us heaps of money and we'll make it all go away.
Oh, yes. It's like, Dr. Evil will do it for $1 million.
Yeah, honestly, you're right. But at the same time, it feels for me less stressful because on one hand, we had it once already.
Yep.
And I think, especially since we talk, that's also part of the reason why some companies are now actually migrating to more recent technologies. Because if they have to do the investment, then you can do the investment better. Because at the end of the day, the older technology is still older technology, and there are some significant drawbacks if you want to have it integrated with modern technology, or at least with the expected user experience that the average consumer now expects from their computer. Certain stuff, it wasn't really made for that, and you can force it, but you can make a square peg fit a round hole, but it's easier to make a square peg fit a square hole. That's essentially it. So I don't think it's going to be as bad because companies are going to use the opportunity, while back in the day, yes, technology had improved, but not by the same leaps and bounds as it has done in the last 30 years.
Yeah, and also the general life cycle of your software stack is a lot shorter.
Yeah.
People will move platforms, they will move technologies, you will move from physical to cloud to somewhere on your infrastructure. You find out, well, you're building a tool or an app with a framework, and then that framework goes out of support and gets deprecated, stops being used or moves on, and then you move your application from one framework to the other. And then, of course, you're relying heavily on that framework to be compatible with whatever it is. But as it is a new thing, and then let's hope, well, the, say, 1880s bedroom coders are no longer really there. It's always, even like open source projects and certainly corporate projects, it's effort of multiple people. So you do limit the possibility of a silly choice or mistake being left in.
Yeah, there will always be those choices that are left in because of one architect that really had a very interesting viewpoint on certain things, but the chances that it stays in there for 10 or 20 years are significantly less. And even if it stays in there for 10 or 20 years, by then it's quite outdated.
Yeah. True, and then of course mainframe doesn't use Unix time.
No.
So that's the thing. So your financial sectors will be not affected. Of course, I'm thinking about who is using large Unix platforms today.
Heavy industry, I would say.
Yeah, if you're doing some larger databases, but then you would be more on the what's still actually today Unix based.
I think the embedded software of machinery, those things can be Unix based.
Yeah.
I think that embedded systems of machinery aren't really all that influenced by the date. Honestly.
No, they're not.
But I think and again, dear listeners, if you have good examples of where they are still heavily dependent on Unix, please share with us. But
yes, let us know and explain it to us, please.
Yeah, because honestly, we're both more Microsoft guys than Unix guys.
That is actually true. And as said, the open source world has fixes available that you can easily implement. It's not hidden. It's in all the kernel stuff that you can,
If you update your kernel, it's usually fixed.
Well, if you want to run your application on something that you need this kernel, then you need it. I believe you're talking years ago, not months ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you start development today on anything that is based on the Linux kernel or one of its derivatives, you're going to be okay as long as you do not make the silly mistake of using that backwards compatibility mode. And then maybe perhaps you just deserve to suffer.
Yeah, indeed. I can imagine that and again, they're dear Unix experts in our listeners. Let us know, but I can imagine that in the meantime they made a backwards compatibility mode that actually fixes that particular issue. I can't imagine that in the most recent kernels it hasn't been fixed even with backwards compatibility.
Indeed. So, you that is now screaming to their car stereo or in their headphones or in the office in your cubicle, let us know, because we are talking about you and we are now completely freewheeling, completely off topic here, which is totally fine for us. When I look at the conclusion, indeed, Y2K itself was at the time itself much hoopla about nothing, but we found out that it was luckily okay. And then for the Unix epoch is what they call it in 2038, it looks like we will be fine.
I don't really have a question, more of a I assume quite stupid idea that just popped in my mind. But what about the year 2049? Because I can imagine that some embedded stuff or some really optimized stuff will store the year just in bits. And if you go from 2048 to 2049, if I remember correctly, you need an additional bit.
There is a 2042 and a 2048 things.
Yeah.
So 2042, that's an IBM mainframe thing where the time of day clock will roll over on current IBM systems. And then SAP, by the way, check out our episode SAP Happens on a nice discussion over SAP and S4HANA. SAP has a rollover in 2048 in its plan scheduling system.
Yeah, and I can imagine that there are other stuff that there are other more not really obscure, but not really all that obvious ones that will have that rollover as well. So essentially, there won't be just one next Y2K. There might be multiple.
Yep, indeed.
Joy of joys.
Oh, and then now thinking of it, because Unix is starting to count from January 1st, 1970. Mm-hmm. What will happen in 2069 at New Year's Eve? Indeed. Looking at current medical tech, we'll still be around right at that moment, and they can roll us in on our oxygen bottle
Yeah, indeed.
And we'll fix it again.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was thinking. That by that time, the only thing that I'm going to care about is that the medical machine I'm plugged into is recent enough.
Oh, yeah, true. Imagine that they hook you up to a Boeing 747 weather computer with floppy disks. I just wanted to compare because I'm quite opinionated on how Y2K was completely overhyped and overproblemized, because when you could think ahead, it was mostly already under control. It was confirmed. For the UNIX 2038, it'll be comparable. And then everything that follows on, because everything else is extremely theoretical, like SAP rollover in, what was it, 2042? That's extremely theoretical.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know whether the hype will be comparable as the one at 1999.
Yeah,
because there was much more public awareness of the fact that there was a new millennium. And
True.
And let's be honest, the world was relatively stable during that time.
Yeah.
If I don't know where we are going to be in 10, 15 years, but there will be a lot of other topics most likely that will grab the attention. Of course, if everything pans out, then it's perfect to do some scaremongering. But if you have actually things to be scared of, then you don't need some obscure IT thing to do some scaremongering.
I think we gave a good rundown of what happened and what could happen and what could not happen. And then also jumping ahead a bit on to what's next after that. And yeah, just keep it in mind that some stupid thing like a second counter can come back to haunt you literally 68 years later. Okay, let this be the next guy's problem, and then very likely the next guy of the next guy's problem, because, you know, if you look at an average IT career of like 25 years, quite often, then yeah, that is 3-4 guys managing that software stack. And then it is basically upon future grandchildren to fix.
Yeah, honestly, I think if there's one takeaway, especially in the modern age of computing, is that if you think you can do it better yourself, don't. Use frameworks, because those frameworks will be fixed by other people.
It's not my problem that you have a problem.
Exactly.
Approach. Oh, I can live with that.
Yeah, exactly. We have frameworks. They are very well supported, and the more supported that they are, the more widespread that they are, the quicker they will be fixed if they discover something. If you think you can do it better yourself, perhaps you can, but you won't be protected for those type of things that you might not have accounted for.
And on this wisdom, I think we can reach a conclusion here.
Yeah.
Folks, thanks for tuning in. As always, new episodes monthly. You can find us online, ithorrorstories.eu. You can reach us, write us an email, hello@ithorrorstories.eu. You can find our episodes wherever you get your audio, so that is your Spotify, your Apple Music, your Deezer, YouTube, and whatever platform you get your panic attacks from. And Bob, thanks again for joining in, as usual. Appreciate your input.
You're welcome. As I said at the beginning, I'm always happy to be here and to entertain our listeners a bit.
Good. All right. In the meantime, also, if you want a gift for your loved one or someone you really dislike, visit our merchandising store, shop.ithorrorstories.eu, and everything else is linked on our website. Thanks for tuning in, and we will hear each other in the next one. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.